minute can open your eyes. One book can open your world. Knowledge gives you power. Read and rise higher. 9R Tree. Better life begins in a book.
Hello, I'm Sebastian. Welcome to 9R Tree's podcast. Today, I will summarize and review the book, When the Body Says No, The Cost of Hidden Stress, by Gabor Maté, MD, explores how unprocessed emotions, chronic stress, and childhood patterns can silently shape our physical health. Rather than viewing illness as random or purely genetic, Maté argues that the body continually responds to our emotional reality, often in ways we do not recognize until disease appears. Drawing on years of clinical practice and compelling case studies, he reveals how traits such as people-pleasing, self-suppression, and an inability to say no can contribute to conditions like autoimmune diseases, cancer, and chronic fatigue. The book bridges neuroscience, psychoneuroimmunology, and real-life stories to show how the mind and body are inseparable. Without blaming patients, Maté invites readers to become curious about their own histories and coping styles. When the Body Says No ultimately offers a powerful lens for understanding illness while pointing toward healthier emotional boundaries and greater self-compassion. I will give you key takeaways from this book. Firstly, the mind-body connection and hidden stress. A central theme of the book is the inseparability of mind and body. Gabor Maté challenges the conventional medical view that separates physical illness from emotional life, showing that our nervous, hormonal, and immune systems constantly respond to psychological stress. Hidden stress is not just about obvious crises, but about chronic internal tension. The pressure to be good, to never be angry, to always be available, or to carry others' emotional burdens. Maté draws from psychoneuroimmunology to explain how prolonged activation of the stress response can dysregulate immunity, increase inflammation, and contribute to disease vulnerability. He emphasizes that this process is often unconscious. People may report feeling fine while their physiology is in continuous overdrive. Through clinical examples of patients with multiple sclerosis, cancer, and other conditions, he illustrates how long-term emotional suppression can silently shape biology. This reframe invites readers to look beyond symptoms and ask what stresses and unresolved conflicts their bodies might be expressing. Secondly, personality traits that invite disease. Maté identifies recurring personality patterns among many of his sickest patients, not as blame, but as clues. These traits include compulsive caretaking, difficulty saying no, chronic self-sacrifice, and suppression of anger. Individuals who constantly meet others' needs while denying their own may appear outwardly kind and resilient, but inwardly pay a physiological price. The body, he argues, often becomes the final voice that says no when the person cannot. For example, he describes patients who develop serious illness shortly after prolonged periods of emotional overextension, relationship conflicts, or bereavement, yet insist that everything is fine. These patterns are frequently rooted in childhood adaptation. Children learn to be pleasing, compliant, or hyper-responsible to secure love and safety, and those adaptations later crystallize into adult personality. The book explains how such traits keep the stress response chronically activated, making it harder for the immune system to maintain balance. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward healthier boundaries and authentic self-expression. Thirdly, childhood attachment, trauma, and disease. Another major topic is the impact of early life experiences on lifelong health. Maté draws on attachment theory and developmental neuroscience to show that a child's brain and stress systems are shaped by the emotional environment they grow up in. When caregivers are overwhelmed, distant, unpredictable, or abusive, children often adapt by tuning out their own needs, minimizing their pain, or becoming hyper-attuned to others. These adaptations may be necessary for survival, but come with a cost. Chronic early stress can program the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis to be overly reactive or dysregulated, altering immune function and increasing vulnerability to illness decades later. Maté shares stories of patients whose serious diseases are linked, in part, to histories of neglect, loss, or emotional invisibility that were never acknowledged. He clarifies that trauma is not only dramatic events, but also the absence of emotional attunement. By connecting biography to biology, the book underscores that many adult health problems are rooted in early relational wounds that have yet to be fully recognized and healed. Fourthly, the role of anger, boundaries, and authenticity. Maté places particular emphasis on the healthy function of anger and boundaries. He distinguishes destructive rage from life-preserving anger, which signals that something is wrong and needs to change. Many of his patients with serious illness have a lifelong pattern of suppressing anger to keep peace, maintain relationships, or avoid feeling guilty. This suppression may appear virtuous, but often means chronically overriding one's own needs. Physiologically, the constant effort to inhibit emotional truth can keep stress hormones elevated and undermine immune defenses. The book argues that learning to hear and honor anger is fundamentally about authenticity, the capacity to be in honest contact with ourselves. When we deny our feelings to remain acceptable to others, our bodies may eventually protest through symptoms. Maté offers reflections and examples of how people can begin to set small boundaries, tolerate discomfort, and speak truthfully in relationships. This shift toward authenticity is framed not as selfishness, but as a necessary step to protect health and reclaim a sense of inner integrity. Lastly, compassionate healing and practical steps. While much of the book explores sobering links between stress and disease, Maté also offers a path toward healing that is grounded in compassion rather than self-blame. He emphasizes that none of these patterns arose by choice. They were intelligent adaptations to early circumstances. Healing begins with awareness, recognizing the ways we habitually override our needs, minimize our pain, or perform roles to gain approval. Maté suggests practices such as journaling about stress, exploring personal history, and noticing body signals like fatigue, tension, or pain as messages rather than nuisances. He highlights the value of therapy, supportive relationships, and mind-body approaches that help discharge stress and foster self-acceptance. Crucially, he encourages readers to experiment with small acts of saying no, expressing honest feelings, and asking for help. Although no book can guarantee disease prevention or cure, When the Body Says No offers a realistic, humane framework for reducing toxic stress, protecting health, and living in closer alignment with one's authentic self. In conclusion, When the Body Says No is especially valuable for readers who sense a gap between how well they appear to cope and how their body actually feels. It is suited for caregivers, helping professionals, high achievers, and anyone who finds it hard to disappoint others or set limits. People living with chronic illness, autoimmune conditions, or unexplained symptoms may find a new, empowering language for understanding their experience without falling into self-blame. What differentiates this book from many health titles is its integration of science, clinical insight, and deep empathy. Maté does not offer quick fixes or simplistic mind-over-body slogans. Instead, he shows how biography, relationships, and physiology interact over a lifetime, and how small, courageous changes in honesty and boundaries can make a real difference. Choosing this book over more superficial wellness guides means choosing depth, a nuanced, compassionate exploration that can reshape how you care for yourself, relate to others, and interpret what your body has been trying to say all along. If you would like to support Gabor Maté, MD, you can buy the book through the Amazon link I've provided in the podcast description. After reading the book, please let me know what you think and share your thoughts. See you around.
1 minute can open your eyes. 1 book can open your world. Knowledge gives you power, read and rise higher. 9 or tree, better